Father Miller here. Welcome back to the Nerd Father. I decided to go a little bit earlier today because I am flying solo again. Some sad news as we begin today. If you follow me on social media, you know that I've been asking for prayers for a priest that I know from Philadelphia, Father Gus Esposito. He was my supervisor my second year of theology. So when a man enters seminary, depending on how much education he has, he goes either into pre-theology or college, or once he gets done with the college and the pre-the, then he goes into theology. And first year, of course, first theology, second theology, third, fourth. So my second year of theology, I was assigned to Monsignor Bonner High School in Philadelphia, and Father Esposito was the supervisor, well, the overall supervisor. I was assigned to the high school chaplain, and unfortunately, he kind of had a little health issue, and I didn't really get to work with Father Esposito as much. I kind of got put with a priest that was to be my overviewer, I guess you could say, and I guess I really didn't thrill him because he didn't really want to have to take care of somebody else. So anyway, but Father Esposito was an Augustinian priest, Order of St. Augustine, and he had been on a ventilator for about 2 weeks. And as I said, sadly, he passed away yesterday. It's been a weird week, and good to see you. Bosco is sleeping on my laptop right now, so thankfully she is leaving me alone. You know, it's been a really weird week. Just when you thought we finished the worst year of our lifetimes, not saying the worst year ever, 2021 said, "Hold my beer," and wow. This is really, I'm going to see if I can bring up something that the bishops, let's see. A little bit harder doing this on my own. Let's see. Okay, so the USCCB, the United States Catholic Conference of Bishops, I'm going to make sure I'm live on this other window over here. So the USCCB, United States Catholic Conference of Bishops, issued a statement on the 6th, on Wednesday, after everything started going down, condemning the violence that happened at the Capitol, and that this is not who we are as Americans. I'm praying for members of Congress and Capitol staff, and for the police and all those working to restore order and public safety. The peaceful transition of power is one of the hallmarks of this great nation. In this troubling moment, we must recommit ourselves to the values and principles of our democracy and come together as one nation under God. I entrust all of us to the heart of the Blessed Virgin Mary. May she guide us in the ways of peace, obtain for us wisdom and the grace of true patriotism. It's been a long day, and love of country. So yeah, it's been a long day. Sundays are the busiest day of the week for me because I have 3 masses, and then usually I get home and usually get to join on Gary Nerdrotic's stream, but that's postponed today. Tax Shark, good to see you. So one of my former parishioners is a congressman that's currently in Congress, and he's a devout Catholic. National Catholic Register had an article with him in it. It's just crazy. But kind of what the bishops were saying, asking Our Lady's protection, it's kind of what I mentioned on the Feast of the New Year's, because January 1st in the Catholic Church is a holy day obligation, and the old rite, or the extraordinary form of the Mass, in that branch, it is still the circumcision of our Lord. In the ordinary form of the Mass, it is the Solemnity of Mary, Mother of God. And I mentioned during my homily just to ask people to really pray for our country, ask Our Lady's protection for our country, because, you know, as we all have patron saints, we choose saints to protect us. Mary is our nation's patroness. And if you ever get a chance to go to Washington, D.C., definitely go visit the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. Beautiful church. It's one of the biggest churches in America, and it's named after our national patroness. But on New Year's, I just basically asked everybody to pray for our country right now, because we're really divided. It's divided between the group that thinks Orange Man bad to the extent that their hatred for him is tangible, lock him up for the rest of his life, versus those that unashamedly adore him and everything that President Trump says. I'm neither. And the thing that really disgusted me this week is all the Trump rallies have been peaceful up until Wednesday. Now, I am not one that's falling into the conspiracy theories that it was really Antifa that was behind it. I don't buy that. You only have to look at some of the articles on the news sites just to see how this is not so, that there was a guy from Iowa that was arrested. West Virginia lawmaker got arrested too. It's messed up times right now. And I think the next 10 days are going to be even crazier because who knows what's going to happen. What do I think should happen? I don't know. Pray. Main thing is to pray for our country right now. I'm not exactly thrilled about what's coming. My whole thing is they talk about healing. It's going to be interesting because President-elect Biden has picked as his nominee for the Health and Human Services the Attorney General of California, who has made it a mission to go after religious groups that will not provide contraceptive coverage, namely the Little Sisters of the Poor. I had a chance to go say Mass with them in Philadelphia a number of years ago. You can't force nuns to provide contraception. And it's going to be it's scary to see what's going to happen. So President-elect Biden gets sworn in on the 10th. And usually one of the first things that happens is, depending on which political party is in charge of the White House, they will either reverse or ban the Mexico City policy, which I think kind of goes back to 1984 with Reagan, prohibiting taxpayer funds from funding abortion throughout the world. You got to say the Mountains of Elysium. I hope I got your last name right. Good to see you. Thank you. Thanks for joining for a short period of time. Like I said, I don't know how long I'm going to go today. Probably not a whole lot. I did my first real solo last week, which was for about a half hour. The fathers have some obligations right now, so I'm the only one alone. But I really enjoyed doing this on my own last week, and I need to get my watch hours up. Anyway. But yeah, I really don't know what's going to happen in this country. I don't think it's going to be. I don't even know how to say it. I mean, we're going to survive. I mean, okay, as Catholics, we look to the church in Poland. I mean, they were greatly persecuted by the Germans. They were greatly persecuted by the communists. They survived. Of course, they were also stronger in their faith, and they were basically a Catholic nation. But I don't know. The main thing is Christ is in control, and really not to worry. Biden will be the second Catholic that is president, with JFK being the first. I think JFK had the luxury of being president when he did, because it was before Roe v. Wade was passed in 1973. Kennedy, of course, was from 1960 to 1963, so he didn't have to deal with that. So I know that the bishops have said that they're going to try to hold Biden accountable if he kind of goes astray. I don't know. So let's see. He said not to be afraid. Yeah. And, Padre Pio, St. Padre Pio, I can't even try to pronounce the name, Petolaccia. I don't know. It's Italian. Basically, his motto was pray, hope, and don't worry. And Padre Pio is a really interesting saint. For if you don't know who he is, let me see if I can bring up a picture of him. He was one of the few saints that was given the grace of having the stigmata, which is the wounds of Christ. And he died in 1968, I think it was. Now, I know some of the skeptics think that he self-inflicted the wounds, and really that's kind of a bunch of hooey. Here we go. Let me bring up this picture. Let's see. So, whoops. Okay, this is from the Padre Pio Foundation. Yeah, so for 50 years, Padre Pio bared the wounds of Christ on his hands, on his side, and he had the gift of being able to bilocate, which means being able to be in two places at one time. He was canonized a saint a number of years ago. I first was introduced to him in the early 90s when I started to take my faith seriously. I mean, I was always a Catholic, but really didn't start really fully living the Catholic. I was in college. Again, brought up Catholic, but being brought up Catholic's a little bit more than just going to church on Sundays. It's living the sacramental life, going to confession, going to mass. I started going to daily mass. And that's a good point there too. The Catholics in my country, Ireland, fared better. Catholics live the faith more authentically than we do under the current supposedly liberal regime. So I think I probably mentioned I did an ancestry DNA test. I already knew the results before I got them. It just kind of confirmed what I already knew. So I am over 60% Irish. My ancestors, at least my mom's side, they came from County Clare, and they settled in a western Iowa town by the name of Clare, because the majority of the residents were immigrants from County Clare. So, but I'm about 63% Irish. So I'm happy. But yeah, Irish history is something I'm trying to learn more about. I know that when the British ruled it up until 1921, the church was greatly persecuted, even though the nation was Catholic. The English overlords kind of enforced the penal laws, which greatly persecuted Catholics. So, but there was something else that was talking about the things that were going on with this week. I just read an article today from the New York Post. So 5 people were killed, and I would say this is technically the 6th. And the cat's coming through. Might see the little cat tail. So a veteran Capitol cop committed suicide days after the DC riot. And I can't imagine how bad these men must feel. I mean, I know that heads are rolling, that they have some of the head security people in the Capitol have resigned. Yeah, this is horrible. 51 years old, died while he was off duty. It doesn't say what family he has. It also doesn't say whether he, like the officer, let's see, was on duty at the time of the deadly riot. The thing that makes me angry about this whole revolt type thing was they killed a cop, or a cop was killed in the process. People are wondering, why weren't the police more prepared? I mean, if you watched any of the campaign rallies leading up to the election, you had thousands and thousands and thousands of people at a rally, and nothing really ever happened. Now, of course, people weren't fired up about what happened in the last month and a half, so I mean, who knows? But like I said, pray for our country right now. So let's see. My father and mother had great faith in St. Padre Pio. He gave them great comfort in their final days. I believe, if I remember my history, I believe John Paul II visited Padre Pio when he was in Rome, or when he was, I don't know if it was when he was stationed in Rome or when he was making a pilgrimage to Rome. Supposedly, also, John Paul I was towed by Padre Pio, I think. I know he was towed by Saint Foss, or no, Saint Lucy. Well, she's not a saint yet. Sister Lucia from Fatima told her that he would be Pope, and he wouldn't be Pope for very long. 30 days, I believe it was. Uh, Reminds me too. I'm meaning to make a video on it, but I watched the new cut of The Godfather Part 3 last month. It's good. I hope to make a review of it. I enjoyed it. It was better than the original cut. I made the intention of not rewatching the third Godfather until I had seen the new cut, mostly because I remember being disgusted by the third Godfather, just really being disappointed and just but I would say the new cut has less Sofia Coppola. And I didn't know until recently that Winona Ryder was supposed to play the role that Sophia ended up playing, but she got sick and couldn't do it. So Francis Ford Coppola's daughter took the spot, and Infamy was made. So, yeah. So it'll be an interesting week. I have made the jump to Parler, but it sounds like Parler's not going to be around for much longer, or at least online for as much longer. I downloaded the app before it was removed from the Apple Store and Google Store. It still works. Let me see. Supposedly it's supposed to go dead at midnight tonight, or at least midnight Pacific time. So, got Parler. Yeah, it's still working. Let's see if we can do this. So, and you got the quartering. And JP Sears, who is a great guy. If you have never seen any of his videos, I would recommend them. He's definitely not a fan of the woke crowd. But happy to have people are watching. Like I said, if anybody has any questions or anything, I'll try to answer them. My goal, like I said, I think next week we're going to try to go back to our normal time. I talked to Father Dallin. I think he'll be able to join us. I don't know if Father Sinatra will be here. We had a good stream last week for our first Saturday stream with Bounding into Comics, Lady Gravemaster, Miss Martin Muses, Odin of Odin Movie Blog, OMB Reviews joined us. Father Galfon from Brooklyn joined us. It was a fun time. And like I said, that's a once a month stream. But I'm hoping to be able to get back into the routine of doing a Sunday night stream. Like I said, I'm the only one on for tonight, so I figured go a little bit early, see how this goes. I ended up getting earlier this. Been wanting. I just saw this. This was kind of an impulse buy. Just with everything that's going on right now, with the craziness between the politics and the social media craziness, it feels like we're living in 1984. I figured, what the heck? It's only $10. Go for it. But it has the Ghost and Mr. Chicken. It has the Reluctant Astronaut, which I can't remember the last time I saw that. The Shakiest Gun in the West, The Love God, and How to Frame a Fig. It does not have the incredible Mr. Limpet, where Don Knotts becomes a fish that helps save the Americans during World War II. If you've never heard of it, it's a true movie. It's an animated movie, animation, live action, fun movie. It also does not have the Apple Dumpling Gang, which I remember as a kid. If you want to watch that, it's on Disney Plus. So let's see. Chris P is here. Yes, Parler is going offline tonight because the Amazon overlords are removing them from the cloud. We will see what happens. We'll see what happens. Um, I will say it will be interesting if Trump takes his money and actually invests in a new social media platform. I don't see why he couldn't. But the thing is, like I said, pray for our country. And as I told my people before the election, whoever wins, we pray for the president. Whether we like the president or not, we have to pray for him because, as our Lord says, to whom much is given, much will be demanded. Myself, as a priest, I will be judged on how I guide my parish. If I start to lead my parish astray, teach heresy, I'm going to be judged harsh on that. The bishop of a diocese is judged by how he leads his flock. Again, I'm not going to really go into names. I know some bishops in American history that have not been the greatest. I remember there was one bishop, I would say about 15 years ago, when he resigned. A bishop, under the law of the church, a bishop has to submit his resignation when he turns 75. It's up to the Pope whether or not he will accept it. When Cardinal O'Connor of New York City retired, don't remember the exact year, when he submitted his resignation at 75, John Paul did not accept it, and O'Connor stayed on as the Archbishop until he was 80, at which time he is required. It's mandatory that he retires under canon law. So, but there was a bishop in America, 2003, 2002, I think it was, had a big scandal that happened. Money about a book review, or not book review, wrote a book. Money went to some places that probably shouldn't have. He submitted his resignation. I believe the Vatican accepted it the next day. That's a pretty darn quick process. Usually it takes a while. When my bishop turned 75 years ago, he submitted his resignation. I think it was about 2 years before we ended up getting the new bishop that we have now. So let's see. Yeah, so I posted on Twitter today. This is the Feast of the Baptism of the Lord. It's the end of the Christmas season, start of ordinary time. I go back to wearing red today. One of the things I've done since I was ordained a deacon in 2007 is to keep a list of all the kids and people, because, there are people that have never been baptized that will get baptized later in life. I've kept a list of all the people that I've baptized, and it's up to 141 in the 14 years that I've been kind of the ordinary minister of the sacraments. So it's really kind of neat just to think that the kids I baptized in 2007 are entering high school almost. So let's see. Have I seen The Private Eyes of Don Knotts and Tim Conway? I think I probably heard of it. I don't know if I've seen it. I know I've seen More Than Odin, who has a movie blog. So the one movie I know, I think we were talking with Rabbi, was The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes's Smarter Brother. And that had Gene Wilder, Marty Feldman as Sherlock Holmes's brother, and Feldman was his version of Watson. They had Madeline Kahn. It's not a Mel Brooks movie. It sounds like a Mel Brooks cast. I mean, the three of them were in Young Frankenstein. But it's a messed up. I mean, it's a good movie. It's weird. It also has Leo McKern, who is a famous British actor, was in A Man for All Seasons, which won Best Picture in '68, I think it was. He was also in another British film that I liked called The Day the Earth Caught Fire, and that was a movie from '63, I think. Long story short, the Russians and the Americans detonate an atomic bomb at the same time. They test the bomb at the same time, throws Earth off of its axis heading towards the sun, and now they're trying to figure out how to fix it. and it's really good. It had a childhood crush of mine in it, Janet Murrow, who one of her first movies was also one of Sean Connery's first movies. It's also a Disney movie, Darby O'Gill and the Little People. And she was also in another Disney movie, Swiss Family Robinson. So, again, Disney movies. I grew up with them. I did resubscribe to Disney Plus not too long ago, so I could binge the second season of The Mandalorian. I'm probably going to keep it for another month. I want to see how WandaVision looks. It has potential, I think. I know that they talked about Ms. Marvel being a new TV show. I have absolute no desire to see that whatsoever. So we'll see. The problem with Disney Plus is they don't have a lot of the classic Disney movies that I grew up with, which it would be the movies from the 60s and 70s. I really would like to see Disney Plus have more, the Wonderful World of Disney that used to be on Sunday nights. There was like one movie, I think, that had Victor French in it that was on. Let's see, G.K. Chesterton. The true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him. Fighting for your freedoms does not mean you hate the opposition, I mean. Yeah. G.K. Chesterton is, gotta say, that's another show that I would recommend is Father Brown. Forgot there for a second. Father Brown. So I do have BritBox, and being an Anglophile, loving British comedy, loving the British sci-fi, the dramas and all that. One of the shows that the BBC rebooted a few years ago was Father Brown, which is based on G.K. Chesterton's stories that he wrote at the 1900s about a priest that solves mysteries. ABC did kind of a similar thing in the 80s with Father Dowling Mysteries, which had Tom Bosley from Happy Days as the priest that would solve mysteries. Oh, good heavens. That's probably been 10, 15 years since I've seen that. So, but yeah, so it's going to be an interesting week. Part of the reason also to go early today, not only because I'm on my own, Mondays are my day off. So I'm going to try to just relax tomorrow. Going to watch some Don Knotts. I'm going to try to catch up on some podcasts. I need to make a video this week. I don't know what on, but drinking tea. So, but yeah, so this was the second stream going solo. I think it went well. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed, please consider doing so because that helps boost my numbers. I have to get some more watch hours. I was able to gain, like I said, probably about 130 subscribers in the last 2 weeks because I was on Gary's Friday Night Tights, which has been fun. But I also lost some watch hours because I had long story, I had to delete a video or something and lost some time on that. So I got to regain that time. Leo McKern was also in the Beatles movie Help. Leo McKern was he was in a lot of movies. I really couldn't even begin to list all the ones that he was in. I believe he was also in Peter Sellers' first movie, The Mouse That Roared. And great actor. And yes, I did know that. The Father Brown movie that starred Alec Guinness in the 50s was the reason that Guinness became a Catholic, because Guinness was not a Catholic at the time. And the story was that he was walking off the set one night in his cassock, and a French kid came up to him, trusting, and just held his hand and talked to him as he was walking along and said goodbye. And he was just impressed with the faith that the child had in the priest. So let's see. Father Brown was on Netflix. It was, but I think all seasons are now on BritBox. Or at least they are that I've seen. I think it's up to season 8 right now. I do know that it was on PBS, but since I have BritBox, I don't need to watch PBS. So with that, I think I'll start winding up. again, just glad to have everybody here with us today. Like I said, it's my plan to go live again next Sunday. We'll try to do it at 6 o'clock Central. Hoping to get Father Dallin again. And we'll see what else happens. But yeah, like I said, main thing is this week just to really pray for our country. It's just sad to see the hatred and the distrust on both sides of the aisle. My whole thing is I just wish that Pelosi and company would have been so upset and disgusted over what happened this week as a lot of us were last summer when we saw the protests and the rioting happening. I was disgusted and upset with it. I understand the reason for the protests last summer, but just as I was disgusted and upset with the violence that happened last summer, the burning of businesses, the looting of businesses, I was equally disgusted by the storming of the Capitol, because it just basically turned the Trump supporters, and I'm not saying it was all of them. If you saw the pictures, there was maybe 250,000. I don't know if that's the right number, but even if there was 10,000 and only 100 or 2 people went in, it just seems to taint the whole thing, and that the whole crowd gets tainted as being a bunch of bad people. I don't believe that. I've been to DC many times. I've gone on the March for Life many times over the years. It's probably been 3 years since I've been able to go on it. I'm not going this year, mostly because I'm paranoid about the pandemic. And plus, the march is going to be scaled down this year. I know our diocese is going to be flying the kids and the chaperones out to go to DC for the march. And then they'll probably turn around and come back with a day or two of maybe touring. So, but every time I've gone to DC, it's always been peaceful. The beauty of the March for Life is that you might have a few 10,000s of people, maybe 100,000, who knows? And it's always been peaceful. If you've been to DC and you know where the Supreme Court and the Capitol is, that curve that turns up that hill, that gets to be really congested. It really gets to be chaotic because that's where the march nears its end. It ends right at the Supreme Court, and just seems everybody becomes bottlenecked. But the last time I got to go to DC, the last time I went on the march, our representative got us onto the floor of Congress. And that was a great experience, because being a political nerd, I watch C-SPAN from time to time. And just to be able to see the thing that's always on TV, to be there right in person, was great. But again, it's not anywhere near justifying the rioting, the destruction of the property, especially the destruction that went on in the Capitol. So really pray for those poor souls. Again, I'm not going to go into whether it's Antifa that tried to sneak in. I don't know. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Again, just make sure you hit the like button, please. If you're not subscribed, please do. So until next week, God bless.